On June 23, 2012, the economic center of the small town Elliot Lake collapsed, raising nationwide outrage over its structural defects and poor disaster management. The Algo Center Mall has been an integral piece of the community Elliot Lake since its opening in the 1980s. After a series of uranium mine closures in the 90s, business owners flocked to develop the mall into a community hub, providing jobs to roughly 250 people and hosting services like a health clinic, library, and grocery store. It's fair to say that Elliot Lake residents treated this place like a second home, bringing up the question how such a beloved building could suffer from years of neglect leading to its eventual collapse. For the Elliot Lake Mall collapse, it's abundantly clear what caused the Stage 2 welding connection failure that left 2 dead and 20 injured. Located off of Highway 108, Algo Center's rooftop parking garage underwent constant stress from all its visitors. During the winter months, the roof is open to all the elements. That meant heavy road salting to keep ice levels low. That would be fine if the roof was properly waterproofed, but it wasn't. As the road salt melted the ice, all the salt water leaked through the floor onto the metal support beams. For years, the salt water ate the beams, which were now covered in rust and dripped through the ceilings. The large amounts of water leaks should have been a warning sign to the structural imperfections of the parking lot. Instead of fixing the problem, the building's owner let the store's owners deal with it themselves. Drip tarps were common in the Algo Mall Center. Before closing, large tarps were placed over all the bookshelves to stop them from facing water damage. In other places, buckets lined the floor to collect water drippings. The company called in to assess the damage but did not want to redo construction and instead opted to do a faster, less expensive fix. The leaks did not stop and the building continued to fail structural evaluations. However, nothing bad showed up on the reports as the building owner would pressure engineers to remove incriminating information on leaks and corrosion. Finally, a piece of concrete fell off the ceiling and an inspector was called in to assess the situation but never showed up. So after years of neglect, the parking garage collapsed, leading to an ethical scandal and eventually demolition of Algo Center Mall.
Some ethical issues that were faced around the collapse were that after the roof had collapsed, the search and rescue mission was called off in fear of endangering workers. This invokes an ethical question about saving civilians and risking workers' lives. Another point was that residents of the town were outraged by the suspension and started signing petitions and volunteering to search and help people in the building themselves. The mall owners also tried to prioritize saving money over the safety of the public. Robert Wood was a very respected engineer before this incident. Unfortunately for him, being a good engineer also comes with having good values. Wood's values did not come close to what an engineer should be. For Elliot Lake Mall, Robert Wood did not inspect any of the joints, even with the proven water leaks and visual rust, and said that he was only hired for a visual inspection. Wood was even asked and agreed to emit photos of structural issues and leaks from his report by the owner of the building, which he did. Even though after the disaster, Robert admitted that he made a mistake, it was too late for the people that lost their jobs, lost money, got injured, and passed away. Wood says he didn't know any of the leaks happening since the day the mall opened, and would have acted differently if he did.
In the case of the Elliot Lake Mall collapse, Robert faced a critical decision point that could have altered the tragic outcome. When Nazarian asked him to falsify structural documents, Robert had a moral obligation to uphold high ethical standards in his profession, but instead he didn't. Firstly, Robert should have chosen to acknowledge what he had found and reported the neglect, rather than falling into his unethical demands. By doing so, he could have acted as a whistleblower, alerting the appropriate authorities or regulatory bodies about the compromised structural integrity. Moreover, Robert could have taken a proactive step by reporting the rust issue within the building to his company. This action could have initiated an evaluation of the structure's safety and prompted necessary repairs, potentially averting the disaster. Lastly, transparency is vital for public safety. Robert, as a professional responsible for the building's safety, could have advocated for information to the public about the true structural state of the mall. The knowledge would have allowed people to make precautionary measures, such as avoiding the parking garage, to mitigate risk and prevent the harm. Consequentialism is the idea that morality behind an action should focus on its consequences rather than its immediate effect. Consequentialism is a good approach to use for alternative options. For problem 1, Robert didn't acknowledge that falsifying a report on structural integrity could lead to a disaster killing 2 people and injuring 20 others. Instead, he focused on making the owner happy by not reporting it. Robert also didn't report the company, which using consequentialism leads to a bad image of his company, which is bad in the long run. Since Robert did not inform the public about the state of the building, it led to people not take precautionary measures when entering the mall.
The most ethical option, in our opinion, is the first one. It's important to understand that as an engineer, you are responsible for creating strong, safe structures and fixing others that have issues. Not reporting defects of a building to make the owner happy goes against this idea and put people's lives in danger.
The collapse of the Elliot Lake Mall in Canada is an example of facing important ethical and social issues in the event of such disasters. Learning from mistakes and trying to prevent their recurrence is important to ensure safety and responsibility in the future. This was Pod C22, and thank you. That was our presentation.